Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of To and Fro. I'm your host, Wendy Thomas, and today I'm being joined with John Listoka. And John is going to help me introduce a video that we took this weekend about the To and Fro, which is the name of this show, as well as the name of a tool that is used and is instrumental in the history of Merrimack. So John, can you tell us a little bit about this idea for the show, the title?
I can, and it was 2 months in the making, actually. We wanted to have the name of a show that would represent the Merrimack Historical Society and what it means to the town of Merrimack. And believe me, we came up with some really crazy titles. It was kind of fun doing it.
Give me an example of a crazy one.
I can't remember one off the top of my head because I think they came from Chuck. and I'm only kidding. So we bantered around, and we just wanted to represent the town's colonial heritage. And we're driving down the road, and I just said, you know what? How does To and Fro sound as a joke? And lo and behold, that kind of stuck. So we actually had it. But there's a lot of meaning to that name, and it represents our society. As you go back and forth through history, To and Fro used with the actual tool. And Chuck will explain that on the video. It's a good video.
It is a good video. And some of you might have recognized that the fro that we're using is not the typical F-R-O, which indicates direction, but F-R-O-E, which is actually the name of this tool that we're going to be talking about. It's an ancient tool, as Chuck will describe in the video, that comes from the Vikings. And it's still used today because it's so effective that, why reinvent the wheel? It works fine.
And I must say, Chuck did a fantastic job on that video. We've looked at a lot of To and Fro videos on YouTube. And I'm a little prejudiced, but I really think Chuck's is better than any of them.
Well, the other thing is that this tool is so effective, Chuck makes his chairs using this tool to this day. Yep. It's really an amazing thing that he's doing this, but this tool was instrumental in building Merrimack. It's how they split the wood. It's how they created objects from trees.
Absolutely. And this is probably our first history lesson to the town of Merrimack.
Right, but not the last.
Not the last. You're going to enjoy some of these history lessons. They're pretty interesting. So what you're going to see is on a weekend, we went over to Chuck's barn, the big red barn that's in town, and he sat down with us and he showed us how to use the fro. And we started with a big stump of wood, and we ended up with a piece that was small enough to be used as a spindle for one of his chairs. It's absolutely fascinating. So we'll be watching that next. So today we're in Chuck's wood workshop at the back of his barn, which is the big red barn by his house. And today he's going to show us how to use a fro. And he's also going to talk about the importance of a fro to Merrimack history. Chuck.
Well, Wendy, it's kind of funny. John and I were struggling with trying to find a name for our new show that would encompass everything that we wanted to say. And we thought about this and thought about that. We talked about it a lot. And one day, John just kind of jokingly said, we should call the show To and Fro. And I stopped for a minute, and John's friend Orma said, hey, I kind of like that. And the first thing you know, it kind of grew on us. And we said, yes, that's exactly what we want to use to describe what our show really is all about. Because a froe is an old-fashioned tool that you push fro and to and fro, etc. So it's a question of going backward and going forward, and it's important to use the tool between backward and forward in the correct way. So we thought that pretty much said everything that we wanted to say about our new show. It's about history, but it's about history today, history 10 years ago, history 100 years ago, history that's going to take place next week, depending upon the stories that people want to tell that are important to our community. And so let me tell you exactly what a froe is.
Okay, go ahead. So you've got some pieces of equipment here.
Yep, and this is a froe.
That's a froe.
Okay, it's basically just a wide metal wedge with a long handle.
All right, let me feel how heavy it is.
Some people call it an L, but then people call the framing square an L too.
So it's not that heavy.
No, it's not that heavy.
That's pretty solid.
And so what we want to do when we split wood, or more to the point, rive wood, we want to place this across the piece that we're going to use, and we want to strike it with a maul. And when we do that,
and this is a piece of maple you're using.
This is a piece of maple. This is going to be some legs for a chair, such as the chair you're sitting in.
Oh.
And if you tried to use a saw to saw out those pieces, you'd be at it forever, and it would take a great deal of work. But with a simple tool like this, we can shorten the period of time that it takes. So you're going to strike the froe with the maul. And hang on.
Woo!
So what we've done now with the froe is we have made a shock crack all the way across the blank. And we always want to rive or split by half so that we have equal forces. So we pick a nice piece of wood that's straight grained and we know exactly what it's going to do. Now in this case, we're just going to take an old axe head here and we're going to place it in the middle. Now that our blank is shocked on either side, we're going to take this little, probably 2.5, 3 pound sledgehammer, and we're going to put that wedge in.
There we go. Whoa.
And you can see how successful we were in having it split. So another thing we want to use our froe for very often is we stick it down in there like a handle like that, and we use it as a lever to pull our pieces apart. So it's a pretty useful lever, and you can see here there's some dark wood in here, and so we'll put one piece aside here for the moment, and we're going to want to rive this piece. Now the pieces that we want for our legs are out here where the arc of the growth rings is fairly straight. You can't use this wood in here because it's too curly. It just won't do.
Well, and you can see.
So generally speaking, the middle of this is something that you're just going to use for firewood.
Yeah.
But out here is where we want to work. Now, of course, what we want to do again is split by half. So we just find the middle of the tree like that. Oh, by the way, we use this wooden maul because if we used our metal hammer, it would peen over the metal here, and the throw wouldn't slide up and down through the wood. It would catch on that lip. So that's why you use a wooden maul.
And so this is just going to make the beginning split that you then you use this for.
No, from now on, we're going to be just using the Froe and the maul to get it down to the size that we need to put it on a lathe and turn it into a leg, or to use the draw knife to shape it or whatever.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Oh, you hear that crack?
Yeah.
Now we're going to put our knee into it right here.
And then you
To
and from.
and fro. Back and forth.
Wow, look at that.
And you notice there's a little string in here. Let's just catch it a little bit. There we go. All right.
Wow. That
Now,
made quick work of it.
a lot quicker than trying to use some kind of a rip saw or a chainsaw or anything like that. So again, I know that most of this wood on the inside is not going to be useful to me, so we're going to shock it like that.
And that's the term, shock. So the shock is just the line.
Well, it's more than a line. What it does is it creates a minor fracturing down through the grain.
Yeah.
So it prepares the wood to split along a known course. Put that in the fireplace.
Here's our first piece of
It'll
firewood.
be nice and warm. Now, we're going to split by half again. So we have to say to ourselves, well, I'm going to need a piece about 2 inches available for chair leg, to turn the chair leg. Can I get 3 out of this? I don't think I can. I don't think I can get 3 out of that. So we'll do it by half again.
So and the bark doesn't do anything. I mean, you don't have to remove the bark or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
No, I do not.
Well, that's getting easier and easier.
Now, that's almost small enough. Of course, I don't want a lot of wood on here because I'm going to have to take it off.
Right.
So I want to reduce the waste as much as possible.
Oh.
Now I'm going to try to pick off a little small piece here, and you'll see that it won't split by half. Stubborn there, is it? Come on now. There we are.
Oh, there we go.
There. Put my knee into it and pull it 2. Oh, pops right off. That's a good thing.
Oh, wow.
2
And
fro.
So even though you're saying to and fro, this is something that people have been asking about. It's spelled F-R-O-E.
Well, one of the things I've always been fascinated with in the English language is cognates, words that we take from other languages and adopt fully into English, such as kindergarten. Well, obviously, it's a German word, child's garden. And we adopt it into English and use it as a term for our children's first learning, the kindergarten.
Yeah.
Chocolate is an Aztec cognate. It's, in English, it's chocolate. In Aztec, it was chocolatl.
Yeah.
And so I find it fascinating that cultures and ethnicities and inventions that preceded us by hundreds and thousands of years can be carried along in our language. So the Froe is actually a Viking word.
Uh-huh.
And of course, the Vikings had 5 major invasions of England and brought with them and settled into England so many things. And the Froe is one of them. If you put on a skirt in the morning, you're doing the same thing that a woman Viking did. She put on a skirt.
Huh.
If you have a cup of coffee, you're doing the same thing that a Viking did. A Viking had a cup. If you're looking at the morning sky, that is also a Viking word. When a Viking stood there with his cup and looked at the sky, he said the same thing we say, cup and sky. And so I think it's fascinating that it's more than just a tool. It's an instrument by which we can travel through time, as if time really didn't have any dominion over how it has impacted the human condition.
Wow.
So there's a nice turning blank for a chair leg. It's just a tiny bit heavy, but you'd rather have it heavy than not quite big enough. Because if you put it on the lathe and it's not quite big enough, you're going to have a little piece of bark show up. And that's called wane. And you see it quite often on antique chairs. And they would always take the wane and turn it to the inside of the chair where you wouldn't see it.
Yeah. So how small of a piece could you get with this?
Oh, well, that's the wonder of this tool. Of course, this is a pretty good sized Froe. There were many that were a bit smaller than that. And I have one here. Let me just grab it for you. This is a really small Froe. And
And a
of course,
really small mallet.
yeah, it looks just like the real deal. And of course, if we had a small piece of wood that we rived out of a log with the big Froe, as primarily how they were making shingles and clapboards and so forth. So now we want to make some spindles for the side of the chair where they come from the seat up into the arm. So we'd get this piece riven out of the log.
So where does one purchase a Froe? Do they make them or?
Oh, you
They
can
must make them.
find a blacksmith. He'll make one for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a specialty tool and difficult for blacksmiths simply because in order to get the thin blade down here, they have to really hammer it.
Yeah.
And every time they hammer it, the thick part wants to go up like this.
Yeah.
So in order to keep it straight is really the magic of a good blacksmith.
Okay.
So.
And how old is this one?
Oh well, this is quite old. You can see it's pitted with rust and so forth, but it's got a new handle on it. Why don't you take that little mallet and hit that as hard as you can?
All right, you watch your fingers there.
Yeah. There you go.
Yay!
Look at that, huh? Now you take the handle and you move it to and fro.
Oh, look at that. Nice little piece of-
Yeah, sometimes it gets a little stringy.
There we go. Oh wow.
All right. Now, of course, it's still too big, right? So we're going to want to do that again. There we go.
That's
All right.
right.
By half.
All right, so is
Always by
that
half.
half right there?
That's pretty close, yeah.
All right, and do you do it in the middle of the Froe?
Pretty much.
Okay. Oh, that wasn't a good one. There we go.
All right.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right. You can just, whoop,
There you go. Give it a good pull. There we go.
there. Okay. So, yeah, you can cut up wood really small with these things.
All right, so let's do it again.
All right. This way. Oh, I'm getting better.
All right, to and fro. There we go.
Oh, that was, yeah.
All right, so that piece is a little too small, but this piece is just the right size that we could make a spindle out of it for the side of the chair. And if I took my draw knife and my spoke shave and went right after that, it would be about 5 minutes to turn it into something that looked round like that.
Really?
All set to go into the side of the chair.
So when you made this handle?
I did make that handle.
So what happened to the other handle? Did it just
Well,
time?
yeah, wood doesn't last as long as iron, I guess. So it's a good thing that some of us are made of better steel, huh? Yeah, so that's how quickly you can get a small part out of a huge tree.
So and you make these chairs.
Yes.
So you use these all the time.
All the time.
Excellent.
All the time. This is so much easier and so much faster than any kind of saw. It's an amazing tool in that it allowed them to break huge logs down
Yeah.
into workable pieces of any size in just a matter of minutes.
Well, it's amazing that, and it's very old.
Yes.
I mean, not this particular one, but just the technology or the idea. But it's withstood.
It may be thousands of years old. We don't really know. It is an ancient tool,
But it's still used today
still used today by traditional skills artists.
because somebody came up with a really, really good idea that worked.
Absolutely. And I mean, today, most any homeowner probably can afford to go out and buy a chainsaw or something like that. But even at that, the chainsaw is an awkward tool to try to do any of this. You can see that the two of us sat here for a couple of minutes, and the first thing you know, we had a chair leg ready to go on the lathe, and
Spindle
we had a spindle ready to go with our draw knife and our spoke shave.
and some firewood.
And some firewood. And like the old Cal Coolidge said, it's going to warm you twice too, right?
That's right. That's right.
Once when you cut it, and once when you burn it. So,
Well, this is awesome. Thank you for showing us this, Chuck. This is really, really interesting. I mean, it's just fascinating.
it's to and fro.
It's to and fro.
It's to and fro.
All right, so now you've seen how a froe is used, and you've seen how we can take a stump of hardwood and using this tool and a wooden mallet, cut it down into small pieces, small enough to be used as spindles in a chair. It's actually pretty amazing. But the other thing is that we want to keep in mind that this tool is really instrumental in the history of Merrimack because it was used to build a lot of our buildings. So tell us about some of the buildings and the applications that it was used for.
Well, there were a lot of mills in town, but the pioneers didn't have access to mills. So working on their farm or their homestead, they needed simple tools. A froe was the most simple. And it was so effective in making boards, actually. They didn't have a saw to saw it a 20-foot board, so they'd split it with a froe. And they do it quite quickly.
Well, and that's it. In the video, you can see, it was my first time using a froe. Put the tool there, you just use a wooden mallet, strike it right, and it has to be, with the grain. Strike it and it splits the log. It's actually pretty amazing. Now, it was used well before Merrimack.
Actually, it was. History says it's probably a Viking tool. And the Vikings used the froe to actually make the boards for their ships that they sailed all over the Atlantic, and it's pretty amazing. I'm not sure I'd be that brave to sail in a Viking ship, but that's what they used it for.
Well, we don't have too many Viking ships in Merrimack. So what was it used for in Merrimack, in the history of Merrimack?
They'd actually make boards for the siding of their house or their barn, or shingles. It was used an awful lot for shingles. We had a lot of cedar trees around here before, so they'd split the cedar and make shingles for their roofs.
Oh, the cedar shingles. That's well known, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's an amazing tool. It's withstood the test of time, and it's still being used today.
It is. And there's actually one that Chuck loves. It's a very special one, and the Milford Historical Society owns it. And you can actually go and see that. And we're going to have a Froe at our Historical Society.
Oh, so people can stop by to actually see it?
They can.
That would be great. It would be nice, too, if we could set up a workshop where people could actually do it themselves. That would be nice.
That's one of our goals.
There we go. There we go. That's what I like to see. All right. So this has been the To and Fro episode looking at the Froe. John has a message for people in Merrimack now.
Actually, I do. And we're bringing this show to you to tell the history of Merrimack. And everybody has a grandmother or a grandfather or someone in the family that has a story that needs to be told. And I'm hoping it can be one of your stories. Join us.
So we're here to hear your stories. And if you have any sort of historical aspect, and history doesn't have to be decades and decades ago, it can be recent history. You can contact the Historical Society through the website, which is www.merrimackhistory.org, or you can send email to info@merrimackhistory.org, or you can call John at the Historical Society at 603-880-4343, and John will get back to you. But we would love to hear your stories on this show. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you soon.